Well, we are checking in with Hamilton Mayor Fred Eisenberger this morning to find out how things are going during the lockdown. Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to start off by asking what kind of impact the vaccine shortage is going to have on Hamilton.
Well, it's certainly going to slow down the vaccination of the population as a whole, but the good news is that by end of week we'll be finished with the long-term care and retirement homes, both staff and residents. So that's good news. That's where we've seen the highest cases of COVID, or at least the highest death count of COVID, and certainly where the greater number of outbreaks have occurred. But, the vaccine is obviously necessary. We want to get it into the arms of individuals as quickly as possible, but we're completely limited by the supply, and that is in the hands of the federal government and the provincial government. So we're obviously adhering to their requirements in terms of how these vaccines are to be administered, but the supply of that vaccine is going to be critical going forward so that we can get that into the arms of the next phase of vaccinations that are planned to happen.
And when you talk about that first group, that means their first shot of 2, right?
Yeah, and some are ready to get the second shot as well. So we've had some on reserve to make sure that those who got the first shot will get their second shot. So some of that will also occur. And then we're hoping that the supply chain improves so that by the next 2 or 3 weeks we can get that second shot into the arms of the rest of those that have been vaccinated already, and get on with the next phase, which is the healthcare workers, paramedics, all the other first responders that are going to require this vaccine sooner rather than later.
Right. You were one of the first, or one of the mayors who sent an open letter to the government asking for paid sick days. Any response from that?
No, not as yet. It's been an issue that the Greater Toronto Hamilton area mayors have been advocating for during this pandemic. And I'll separate the issue out a little bit. I know there's a great ideological debate happening on permanent sick days. But the reason for our advocacy right now is that there are people that we hear of that are feeling sick or potentially need to get tested, but aren't doing it because they're going to lose income, and they some desperately needed income. And so that's a bad situation for us to be in, and we're encouraging both levels of government, federal and provincial, to find a way of providing some sick days so that these individuals can go and get their test done, go and do the self-isolation if required, if they're not feeling well, and not continue to infect other people, going forward. So it's a pandemic issue right now. It's a crisis moment. And so we're asking both federal and provincial governments to look after it now. And then that broader ideological debate can happen thereafter in terms of whether that ought to be a permanent function of the government's advocacy, or whether that's just a pandemic issue.
And is this meant for, because I know everybody says, well, it's the federal government, they have this program set up, but if you call in sick today, you're not going to get that money until many, many weeks later, right?
Yeah, and we're hoping to get some immediacy to this. So, how do we speed that up? What kind of process can be put in place? Not unlike the CERB, that they were able to get out there, fairly quickly into the hands of individuals so they can get their food and pay their rent and all the things that are critical to sustain life right now. And so I think that sick pay, they have to find a way. And if there's a way of enhancing the EI benefit, or streamlining that application process so it doesn't take weeks or months to get that, so it's almost as close to instantaneous as we can get it.
Any thought as to making employers cover that off?
Yeah, and that's one of the one of the thoughts is that we have the employer pay the money up front, so give the sick pay to the individual, and then get reimbursed by the government thereafter. So their ability to do that is much greater than, and it would speed things up considerably. So there's a much more of an immediacy to it, and that's certainly one of the paths that we've advocated for, which is have the employer pay and then reimburse the employer, as soon as you can.
Okay. Fred, thanks very much. Nice to talk to you again this morning. Mayor Fred Eisenberger, Mayor of Hamilton.
Have a great day. Thank you, Annette.